How's it going, everybody? Willie Pat here, and today we are prepping for the Aquarius Cup Champions meeting in Umamusume. If you want to win, or at least consistently reach Group A finals, this video is going to cover all of the basics, including race conditions, best character choices, stat targets, skill priorities, training strategies, as well as self-promotion of our fantastic club called Patent Wee. I was supposed to say Patent Willie, but it only allowed a certain amount of characters. So if you're looking for a club and you want to join one, it is open for all to join. So feel free to go ahead, hop on in and have a chat with us. But anyways, with that out of the way, let's get started. The Aquarius Cup runs March 2nd to March 12th, and it's going to be on the Tokyo race course. This is going to be a dirt mile on winter sunny firm ground, meaning we're going to have quite a bit of limited characters that will have that dirt aptitude by default, but it does not mean that you can't use anyone. You technically can. It will just require that you have certain amount of dirt sparks on your legacy characters in order to hit those A and S aptitudes. This is the first Dirt Champions meeting, which means fewer strong options compared to turf races, so team building is going to matter quite a bit. You're going to want to have at least one ace on your team. I'm personally going to be doing a 3-ace run, but I highly recommend using one of the following characters that we will get into later. We will definitely cover some free-to-play options as well. For some key notes, the late race begins around the final corner, and there is a long uphill late race. So you're really going to want a lot of power in order to overcome that steepness. You're also going to have a very early downhill, so you're going to want pretty decent wit as well. This will help you out with getting a better position and increase your overall performance in the cup. For some character options, there are going to be the obvious dirt racers that are going to be recommended. So you have Agnes Digital, Alcondor Pasa, Smart Falcon, Summer Morozensky, Taiki Shuttle, and Ogre Cap, as well as Haru Urura, the standard and the New Year's version. The New Year's version is going to be a little bit easier to train for this race, in my opinion, but you can get her there either way. Smart Falcon and Pasa can be pretty good front runners, although Alcondor Pasa isn't a front runner by default, so that's another thing to keep in mind when choosing her sparks. And then Agnes Digital can be a good end closer and or late surger, and the rest can be pretty solid pace chaser options. Now you can put these as any aptitude as long as you have the sparks, and I know there's a lot of different mixtures of sparks out there, so we might see some frontrunner Haruras taking the gold in the A bracket, and we might see some random standout options. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody threw a rice shower in there. I personally am going to be training a TM Opero for this race, so that'll be fun and interesting to see how that plays out. It's important to note that if you don't have the A dirt aptitude by default, you're going to want to use legacy characters that have at least 4 dirt sparks. One of the best way to monitor whether or not you have the sparks is if the letter grade goes up when you're picking out your legacy characters. So if they usually have, for instance, a E in dirt racing, and you pick out some Umas for legacy characters that bring that up before you even start your career to a C rank or higher, you should be able to at least achieve a rank in that aptitude by the end of your career. For the Aquarius Cup, your baseline stats should roughly be around 1200 speed, above 600 in stamina. You're going to want around 1000 in power, 400 guts, and around 800 in wit. Now, these can be a little interchangeable depending on what skills you choose. You're going to want to get some good skills on there that also really assist with strong acceleration. And when you're building a character, the difficult part is getting up your stamina while getting really high power and maxed out speed. This is just an example of one of the Umas that I plan on using in the upcoming Aquarius Cup. I have not finished training this Alcondor Pasa yet. I am going to get this up to the perfect stats that I'm aiming for, and I would like to get an S rank in pace for her as well. possibly might even try to build her as a front runner if I can find some good sparks to borrow. But regardless of that, 1200 speed is pretty much a given whenever it comes to champions meetings. You're going to want to max out your speed. If you're low on guts and wit, naturally that will affect your overall performance, but it is possible that if you have good skills that assist with things like recovery or getting good leads or, taking off from them, such as home stretch haste, shifting gears, fast and furious, etc., etc. These are really going to help you stand out of the pack and not get beat up during that last race incline. Some really good acceleration skills that you'll want include skills such as angling and scheming and Highlander. These are going to be very good as they assist with uphill and late game straight away type races. Angling and scheming, if any of you have ever used it before on any of the previous champions meets, whether it was through Saiyan Sky or Inherited, you know that it is a insane skill, and if you're a front runner and you have that, it is pretty much a nail in the coffin for your competition. Now, naturally, it does perform better for Saiyan Sky herself than it does on Inherited characters, but regardless, it is still a really good skill to have, and Highlander really helps with the late game uphill type race style that should be able to assist with breaking out of the pack or getting a little bit farther ahead if you already have the lead. When choosing your support cards, it's really hard to specify exactly what deck you should use, as it is going to be inherent to the Uma that you decide to train. For instance, if I was to train a TM Opera O, I would want to take into account that she has a 14% increase to speed, 8 to stamina, and 8 to wit. These are actually really good stat spreads, especially for this type of race. It's also good to have some in strength if you're choosing one of those characters, but you're going to want to lean heavily into support cards that make up for the growth rate that you're lacking. So for instance, when training TM Opera O, I can get off with maybe 3 or even 2 speed cards in order to reach max speed with her, and I'd probably want to focus on getting 3 strength cards minimum on this deck in order to get that maxed out strength. Keep in mind, training strength will also train stamina, training speed will also train strength, and training guts and wit will also train your speed. So one of the methods that I like to use in order to get my Umas at max speed, but also have a good alternate stat such as strength, stamina, or guts, is anytime I don't have a really good stack, whether that's a double rainbow stack or at least a triple support card stack to increase friendship gauges, I like to either get a mood up by doing a recreation or do a wit training. It's a good way to get some energy back, put a little bit of points into speed while also training up that wit, and it saves you some turns down the line. Now, it doesn't do a whole lot of points all at once, but throughout an entire career, it could be over 100 extra points in your speed stat if you're training wit enough. Even more than that in some cases if you're using wit heavy decks. There's also certain builds out there that take really big advantage of the guts bonus to strength and speed. There's a lot of decks that have reached S rank or even the coveted UG rank out there recently that are essentially just gut maxing builds, and it will get your speed and power up. The only downside is your wit and your stamina may be lacking. So before you go out and just copy a really good build that you see, keep in mind what support cards you have and how they're best going to suit your needs. When choosing support cards, naturally having a higher level is better, but you're also going to want to focus on a couple of things. You have your initial friendship gauge, which is how much of a friendship gauge that Uma will start with in your support deck. Having a really low initial friendship gauge, even on a 5-star unlock, and a good example for that being the Montihani Fukuki Tannhauser, or wait, no, I just mixed up Montihani Tannhauser and Montihani Fukuki Taru. My bad. But we'll just call her Mambo. The Mambo card has like no initial friendship gauge, so she starts off completely empty. She's got really good special priority, but you're going to spend a lot more turns getting her friendship gauge maxed out and being able to do those rainbow trainings, which give you more of those points and good stacks. So I like to go for cards that have a really good initial friendship gauge, a really good special priority, but also anything that gives bonuses. Initial power 30, initial speed 30. These are all bonuses that this is going to give you just by choosing this support card. So when you're going through your deck, I would personally prioritize those stats in their support cards over whether or not the aptitudes match yours. If you have a really vast deck of support cards, then it won't really matter all that much if you want to make sure that your front runners are using cards like Silent Suzuki here, who's also a front runner and will give you a lot of front runner skills. But, you know, at the end of the day, the stats are going to matter quite a bit more, as your Uma will have skills that they unlock throughout their career based off of their initial aptitudes anyway. So it is good to have matching aptitudes, but the stats are going to take priority. To summarize this quick guide for the upcoming Aquarius Cup, make sure that A, you are choosing strong dirt racers, Agnes Digital, Falcon, Condor, Marzensky, you know, Ogre Cap, etc., etc. There's quite a few out there that have a B aptitude or higher that you can choose right from the get-go. And if you don't have a lot of scouted Umas, it's good to use some of the defaults that are just going to have an advantage to begin with. You also want to make sure you're hitting your stat targets. Speed, power, and stamina are going to be the most important here. Speed and power, especially given the fact that there's such a heavy incline in the late game. You want to make sure you're doing your training in the Unity Cup. You just get more stats throughout the Unity Cup training. It can be a little bit more difficult, but it is, you know, important to kind of lock in, get used to it, and make sure you're taking advantage of all the free stat increases. You also want to prioritize late race acceleration type skills. And most of all, make sure that you're just having a good time and choosing the Umas that you really want to raise. Never feel like you have to be locked down to any specific Uma just because there's a specific type of race out there. It's usually possible to train any sort of Uma for any sort of race. You just got to get a little crafty with your sparks and you should be able to make it happen. So with that being said, good luck in the Aquarius Cup, and let me know in the comments who you're going to be running. Are you going to be a front pace or end closer? And are you aiming for Group A? We might even see each other there. So if this guide helped you out, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join the Discord. Links in the description below. And we will catch you later. Bye-bye now.